The lobby of the Greenwich Manor Hotel and Spa was bathed in the soft glow of crystal chandeliers at dusk. The warm light cascading from the ceiling cast delicate shadows on the marble floor. As gentle classical music played in the background, I held my 7-year-old daughter Emma's small hand tightly while trying to hide my exhausted expression. The fatigue from a week as a project manager in Manhattan still lingered in my body. Nevertheless, this weekend was special. It was a family trip to celebrate Mother's 65th birthday. Since losing my husband 2 years ago, my heart has been filled with complex emotions during these family gatherings. "Welcome to the Greenwich Manor, Mrs. Miller." While nodding to the receptionist's refined greeting, I unconsciously adjusted the collar of my navy suit. Though it was the same as my usual business attire, I felt somewhat unsettled today. "Mama, this hotel is so beautiful. It's like Cinderella's castle." Emma, wearing a light blue summer dress, looked around with sparkling eyes. Our reflections in the marble floor were as beautiful as a mirror. My heart softened a bit at my daughter's innocent smile. "Yes, it is. Grandma's birthday party is going to be wonderful." Even as I said this, small worries were swirling in my mind. Since losing my husband John, family relationships had subtly changed. Mother seemed particularly concerned about me raising my daughter alone, and my sister Patricia never missed a chance to showcase her perfect family life on social media. We took the elevator to the 5th floor and headed to the French restaurant, Le Jardin, where we had reservations. When we entered, Mother, my sister Patricia, and her daughter Jenny were already waiting. The table was set with crisp white linens and perfectly arranged silver cutlery. The Connecticut sunset streamed through the large windows. "Elizabeth, Manhattan keeps you busy as ever, I see." Mother, wearing a pearl necklace, greeted me with her usual refined smile. Dressed in a navy blue dress, she remained as elegant as ever. However, I could sense concern for me hidden behind that smile. "Yes, but I'm fulfilled. Emma's doing well in school, and work is going smoothly. I never see you post anything on social media. Why don't you share some family photos once in a while?" Patricia, wearing a designer dress, said with a slightly sarcastic smile on her perfectly made-up face. Beside her, Jenny, in a pink dress, showed a somewhat tense expression. I sensed something unspoken in her eyes. "Jenny, sit up straight. Like a lady. With that posture, you'll ruin tomorrow's ballet recital." "I'm sorry, Mama." Jenny quickly corrected her posture at Patricia's stern voice. Watching this, I felt something was off. My sister frequently checked her smartphone between courses, apparently taking selfies to post. I noticed that Jenny's expression only changed to a natural smile when she talked with Emma. At 9 p.m., when Emma and I finally returned to our room, we gazed at the night view through the large window. It was a quiet suburban night scene, different from Manhattan. While relaxing on the bed, Emma suddenly said, "Jenny could be a good friend. But she looked kind of sad." "Yes, she did," I answered thoughtfully. Somehow, a slight unease remained in my heart. Patricia's perfectionist attitude, Jenny's tense expression, and Mother's worried gaze. As I watched Emma's sleeping face, I hoped these 2 days of family weekend would pass peacefully. When morning light streamed into the room, I was already awake. Last night's unease still lingered in a corner of my mind. Looking at Emma's sleeping face beside me, I was mentally organizing today's schedule. When my husband was alive, such family gatherings flowed naturally, but now everything carries a bit of tension. It's Mother's birthday, and we're celebrating as a family. Outside the window, the early morning Greenwich streetscape stretched out. The orderly scenery typical of this upscale residential area emerged hazily through the morning mist. At this point, I had no way of knowing that the events about to unfold would significantly change our family's dynamics. At 8 a.m., when we went down to the hotel's breakfast venue, the Garden View, Mother, Patricia, and Jenny were already seated. The luxurious buffet featured an impressive breakfast spread including Belgian waffles, eggs Benedict, smoked salmon platters, and seasonal fruits. Pleasant cooking sounds and aromas wafted from the live kitchen corner where chefs prepared omelets to order. "Good morning, Elizabeth." "Emma, what a lovely dress. Did you buy it in Manhattan?" Mother greeted us while elegantly holding her coffee cup. Her gesture reflected 40 years of upper-class life in Greenwich, and I found myself unconsciously straightening my posture. Patricia appeared to have finished her meal and was taking photos with her smartphone. Beside her, Jenny said, "Good morning," in a small voice. Her plate showed barely touched food. After we sat down at the round table, Patricia suddenly pulled out what appeared to be an expensive Cartier necklace case. There was something calculated about her gesture, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "Oh, haven't I shown you yet? This is what my husband gave me for our 10th anniversary. It's a 20-carat diamond. Everyone at last week's charity party was so envious." When she opened the case, there indeed was a magnificent diamond necklace. The jewel sparkled brilliantly in the morning sun, seeming to symbolize Patricia's perfect life. My, what a lovely piece. But such an expensive item at breakfast. Mother sighed, her voice containing both admiration and a slightly critical tone. 40 years of experience in Greenwich society enabled such subtle nuances. "Wow, it's so pretty. Can I touch it? It looks like a doll's necklace," Emma exclaimed innocently. At that moment, I didn't miss how Jenny's expression momentarily stiffened. Her hand unconsciously clutched her dress sleeve. "Just for a moment. Be careful not to leave fingerprints." Patricia proudly showed Emma the necklace. Taking out her smartphone to photograph the scene, she continued. Something almost pathological seemed to lurk behind her eyes. After finishing breakfast, just as we were about to return to our rooms, a sudden incident occurred. Shortly after Patricia returned from the powder room, her scream echoed through the breakfast venue. Other guests enjoying their elegant breakfast all turned around at once. "My necklace is gone. I left it on the table, my 20-carat diamond, surely not." Seeing my sister in a panic, Mother immediately turned toward Emma. Her gaze was heavy with suspicion. Years of experience in high society had instantly decided where to direct suspicion. "Wait, what do you mean?" Emma didn't do anything. I couldn't hide my agitation. Emma said in a small voice that she only touched it, but Mother and Patricia's gazes were already fixed on my daughter. I felt strong indignation at the suspicious looks directed at a 7-year-old girl. "We should call the police. This is a proper theft case." Mother's cold voice cut through the morning stillness. That voice carried the same sternness I had heard during my rebellious phase. Wait. You're suspecting my daughter. A 7-year-old child. While I desperately tried to protect Emma, Patricia's voice rang out cold as ice. She was very interested in it yesterday, wasn't she? Emma, dear, why don't you tell us honestly? If you confess, we'll be lenient. Behind those words lurked a controlling attitude, as if speaking to her own daughter. Emma's shoulders began to tremble. Large tears rolled down her cheeks. It wasn't me, please believe me. Mama. I really only touched it. As I listened to my daughter's desperate plea, I felt something breaking inside me. Then suddenly, I caught Jenny's expression. Though she was looking down, there was a faint but definite smile on her lips. That expression was completely different from her usual tense demeanor. Mother had already called the front desk, requesting them to call the police. The luxury hotel staff began moving busily, and what should have been a vacation morning suddenly took a nightmarish turn. The manager was repeatedly apologizing while trying to contain the situation. While holding Emma's small hand tightly, I was desperately trying to think things through. True, Emma had shown innocent interest in the necklace, but she would never steal. And more than anything, Jenny's unnatural expression bothered me immensely. To protect my daughter, I was desperately trying to organize the situation, making sure I hadn't missed anything. Everyone was gathered in Patricia's suite, and as a heavy atmosphere hung in the air, I quietly observed the situation. Mother sat in a chair with a dignified expression, while Patricia paced the room in an agitated state. And Jenny, standing quietly in the corner. I thought I could see something like relief flickering across her expression. I couldn't shake the intuition that the key to solving this incident lay hidden in this unnatural scene. At 10 a.m., the police arrived at Patricia's suite. Leading them was Detective Linda Collins, followed by a young male officer. They both appeared calm, perhaps accustomed to theft cases in luxury hotels. Could you explain the situation in detail? Detective Collins's voice was surprisingly gentle. Perhaps Greenwich police were well versed in handling cases involving the upper class. My 20-carat diamond necklace disappeared. During breakfast, this child. Patricia pointed at Emma with a trembling finger. There was something theatrical about her gesture. Detective Collins didn't miss this, briefly furrowing her brow. Young lady, what's your name? Detective Collins crouched down to Emma's eye level and spoke gently. Emma Miller. I'm 7 years old. Emma answered in a trembling voice. I placed my hand on my daughter's shoulder, trying to reassure her. Emma, you don't need to be scared. I just want to know what happened. Detective Collins's voice carried a warmth backed by experience. Emma seemed to regain some composure. The necklace was pretty, and I just touched it when they let me, really. At that moment, I saw Jenny, who had been still in the corner, slightly tremble. Detective Collins's sharp gaze caught that movement for an instant. May we check your belongings, young lady? Emma's bag contents were spread out on the table. A Disney princess stationery set, her favorite picture book, cookie snacks. All typical belongings of a 7-year-old girl. Nothing has turned up, has it? At Detective Collins's words, Mother and Patricia showed clear agitation. But who else could have? Patricia's voice trailed off. At that moment, Detective Collins quietly turned toward Jenny. "Jenny, did you see anything?" At that voice, Jenny's body began to shake more strongly. Patricia immediately stepped in front of her daughter. "What are you trying to ask my daughter?" "Ma'am, if we could talk privately." Detective Collins invited Patricia to another room. However, Patricia strongly refused the suggestion. "I won't leave my daughter's side." At that moment, a small voice escaped from Jenny. "Mama, enough." All our attention focused on Jenny. Large tears had welled up in her eyes. "Jenny, what's wrong?" When Detective Collins gently asked, Jenny slowly began rolling up her sleeve. There were clear bruise marks. Patricia hurriedly tried to grab her daughter's hand, but Detective Collins stopped her. A heavy silence dominated the room. Jenny's trembling voice broke that silence. "Mama, when I make mistakes." Jenny began speaking through tears. Minor mistakes in ballet lessons, dropping in test rankings, all had become reasons for physical punishment. "And the necklace." Mama put it in her makeup pouch. At those words, the color drained from Patricia's face. Under Detective Collins's direction, the young officer checked Patricia's makeup pouch. There, indeed, was the necklace in question, hidden away. "Patricia, how could you?" Mother's voice trembled. The truth came to light. Obsessed with portraying a perfect family, she had abused her child and tried to frame her innocent niece. Emma silently went to Jenny and held her hand without a word. The pure interaction between the two girls felt like a faint ray of hope in this heavy atmosphere. Detective Collins carefully organized the situation. The need to report to Child Protective Services, the importance of counseling, and above all, the path to family reconstruction. While silently embracing my daughter, I was thinking about how our family should be from now on. Perhaps there's no such thing as a perfect family. But true recovery might begin from acknowledging and accepting each other's wounds. Outside the window, the spring sunlight continued to pour down unchangingly. As the afternoon sunlight painted the room white, we were meeting with Sarah Johnson, a social worker from Child Protective Services. She had responded surprisingly quickly to Detective Collins's report. Given the strong suspicion of abuse, temporary protective custody might be necessary. Sarah's quiet voice resonated in the heavy atmosphere. Patricia, having lost her previous haughty attitude, was trembling in the corner of the sofa. "Why did you do this?" "Patricia, you." To my question, after a long silence, my sister began speaking in a thin voice. "I wanted to be perfect, wanted to be the ideal family that everyone envied." Her confession wouldn't stop, like a dam breaking. Her obsession with collecting likes on social media. Her thirst to always be the object of envy. And the reality that she had chosen her daughter, the weakest presence, as an outlet for these distorted desires. I had to post every day. It was all lies, but I couldn't stop. While listening to Patricia's confession, Mother was quietly crying. "I bear responsibility too." Mother's unexpected words made everyone in the room hold their breath. "I demanded too much perfection from my children. I bound you too tightly." Elizabeth, Patricia, I'm sorry. 40 years of life in Greenwich's upper society. Days of constantly minding appearances and forcing pretense. That pressure had unknowingly cast shadows onto the next generation. But it's not too late. I stood up and walked over to Jenny, who was standing by the window. What do you think makes a real family? Jenny thought for a moment and answered in a small voice. Believing in each other. That pure answer seemed to slightly soften the room's atmosphere. That's right. There's no such thing as a perfect family. But we can create relationships where we accept each other's weaknesses and support one another. Sarah Johnson began sharing her professional opinion. First, we need to ensure Jenny's safety. Patricia will need to receive professional counseling. And I recommend regular therapy sessions for the entire family. Patricia nodded slightly at those words. For the first time, genuine regret showed in her eyes. And it would be good to take a break from social media. At Sarah's suggestion, Patricia took out her smartphone and began deleting several apps with trembling hands. Watching this, Emma suddenly took Jenny's hand. Hey, Jenny, want to come to our place? New York is really fun. We can play in Central Park, go to museums. The adults were momentarily speechless at this pure childish proposal. However, that simple suggestion might become our family's new first step. As a temporary measure, that could be one option. Sarah evaluated it positively. Detective Collins also showed an approving expression. During that time, Patricia can focus on necessary treatment and counseling. But Mother gently interrupted Patricia's hesitant words. Your recovery is most important right now. For Jenny's sake too. As we faced this important decision, dusk was beginning outside. The soft spring light quietly enveloped us in the room. Then, for the specific procedures. As Sarah began taking out documents, Jenny started speaking in a small voice. Mama. I'm not scared anymore. Because. She looked at Emma and smiled faintly. I believe we can become a real family. At those words, large tears rolled down Patricia's cheeks. For the first time, real tears, not performed ones. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She knelt down and gently embraced Jenny. That figure showed genuine motherly love, completely different from the affectionate displays staged for social media. We can take it slow now. At Mother's words, I felt the room's pressure gradually dissolving. While signing the final documents, Detective Collins gave us advice. Family reconstruction takes time. But if you face things honestly like today, a path will surely open. While preparing to return to Manhattan, I gazed out the window. Greenwich's streetscape remained orderly as ever. But beneath that seemingly perfect surface, perhaps other families were also struggling, fighting, and searching for paths to reconstruction. In the twilight sky, a small star began twinkling. 3 months later, on a Sunday morning, my apartment in Manhattan's Upper West Side was wrapped in a peaceful atmosphere. Sweet pancake aromas wafted from the kitchen, and children's laughter could be heard from the living room. Emma, it's my turn next. Jenny's voice was bouncing with joy. At the table, the two girls were absorbed in choosing toppings for their pancakes. In these 3 months, Jenny's expression had become remarkably brighter. "All right, but go easy on the maple syrup." When I called out, Jenny smiled somewhat shyly. Even though it was just weekends, since taking temporary custody of Jenny, our lives had certainly changed. "Elizabeth, you've been such a help." Patricia, sitting in the guest chair, spoke quietly. Continuing her thrice-weekly counseling, her expression no longer showed its former arrogance. There was no sign she would reactivate her deleted social media accounts. That's what family is for. While pouring coffee, I observed my sister's changes. Wearing casual clothes instead of designer brands, without heavy makeup, she had a strange serenity about her. The therapist says, "I was obsessed because what I really wanted was to be loved." I nodded silently at Patricia's confession. Perhaps deep in her heart lay a need for approval that had been there since childhood. "Mother has changed too." Patricia nodded in agreement at my words. Last week, Mother announced she would postpone her planned move to a retirement home. Instead, she wanted to participate in weekly family counseling and spend precious time with her grandchildren. We took quite a roundabout path, didn't we? Outside the window, Central Park's greenery sparkled in the early summer sunlight. The scene made the events in Greenwich 3 months ago feel like a distant past. "Hey, let's go to Central Park next weekend." "I want to go to the zoo." At the children's voices, Patricia hesitantly suggested, "Could I come along too?" "Of course. Jenny would love that, wouldn't she?" Just then, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, there stood Mother. "Grandma." As the children rushed over, Mother showed a gentle smile. In her hands was a homemade apple pie. "Remember how we talked about the apple pie I used to make during our last family therapy? I tried making it for the first time in ages." At those words, tears glistened in Patricia's eyes. Mother hadn't made homemade treats since we were little. "Elizabeth, Patricia, you know, I've realized something lately." Mother slowly wove her words together. "I was also desperate to play the perfect family. But really, I just wanted to be with my daughters." On the table lay pancakes and apple pie. Though not perfectly presented, their warmth touched our hearts more than any Instagram-worthy table setting from before. The therapist said something. Patricia began, as if remembering words from counseling. "Family happiness can't be captured in photographs." Outside the window, families could be seen walking in Central Park. Each family carrying their own story. Could we take a picture together?" At Jenny's modest suggestion, the room's atmosphere froze for a moment. But Patricia answered with a gentle smile. "Of course. But this time, not for posting, but for our memories." A family photo captured on a simple smartphone camera. Our slightly awkward smiles. Though not perfect, I felt we had found a new form of family in this genuinely warm snapshot. Since losing my husband, I had been desperate to be the perfect mother. Patricia had tried to act out the perfect family, and Mother had tried to preserve the perfect lineage. But perhaps it was because we were imperfect, wounded, failing, yet still moving forward, that we could become a real family. "Hey, there's an email from Sarah." When I checked my smartphone, it was a report from Sarah at Child Protective Services. Jenny's temporary custody period has been approved for extension. At that news, the room was enveloped in warm air. I felt our new family form being built, slowly but surely. Outside the window, an early summer breeze blew gently.